A man is brain and some emotion. A woman is a lot of emotion and some brain.
Each single person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where to place them, where they need to be placed. Allah places each person in the exact specific place that gives them the most chance to succeed.
Every guy has a girlfriend, every girl has a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a high school, 80% of the students suffer from anxiety.
Why do we ignore now the other aspect of a human being, which is they can terribly fail.
Yeah.
You can give them everything they need and they can choose to do wrong.
They need someone to fully trust and rely on, and they can't see weakness.
Yeah.
Issue number 2, it's the sex life.
We did speak last time about various concepts of what the Quran expects from us as men, as mu'mineen, as someone trying to be upright. I think it's good to have some tangible examples in real life. And I complain about this a lot, and I have done last time, when we speak about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, because we always have this understanding among people that are already practicing, that the wisdom is there, and we hear the wisdom and we understand the wisdom. It may be from a scholar, it may be from our own readings, and it's clear, even though you can always go deeper, you can always look at it from different aspects. So you ask the question then, okay, if the wisdom is there and you're able to see that wisdom and understand that wisdom, why can't others understand it? And this is the complaint I have a lot of the times, is when I use the term we're preaching to the choir. We're saying things in a way that when it reaches the ear of someone who is outside of the circles of people that are already familiar with these things, they actually don't register what you're saying. It sounds almost another language. It almost sounds like for them it seems empty what you're saying, even though you're throwing amazing wisdoms. So on the topic of what is expected of us from a man, well, how can you bring that to a more tangible place for people to understand, in terms of practically?
I understand what you're saying. They disregard the theory often, because you may as well be speaking another language. It doesn't make sense to them. It's an unfamiliar territory. So when you go through practical examples, you start to explore the points that they really need to understand and really need to hear.
So if I throw something out there, maybe to give us a place to step on or stand on, is what Brother Yasser was saying last time. It connects to the parent issue and the issue of man as well. It crosses over. So one of the things that were being raised in the previous gathering was what you said, Sheikh Hassan, about a man when he comes home, how he should be with his family. He should be lifting them up, and he should be throwing his children up and giving this very positive atmosphere, and shouldn't be having negativity and this sort of very warm, friendly type of vibe. And Brother Yasser brought up a point, which if I remember exactly is, or if I remember specifically what you're saying, is he knows a man, or he knows someone who their father acts like that and they get disrespected by their children. So there's a big crossover here with, firstly, the right way to be a father, and also I think that is very connected with the aspect of being a man, or what is expected from you to be able to be, or at least some aspects of being a man, which will command respect, and also it's that combination of rahmah and maybe firmness or principled,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'll wrap up on this if anyone wants to take it. Is that it's this it's always like when there's two conflicting traits that need to be implemented in a person, you always find people swinging one way or the other.
True.
Or they latch onto the one and they forget the other, and it's just this extremism, and it's not clear to people how the two can be fused together. And I think that's part of the miraculous nature we see in the Ma'sumin, we see so many different traits of opposing sides, and you see them acting with such mercy. And but if you think of someone you know that has these qualities, they get consumed by the mercy in a way where they're weak.
Yes.
Or you might see someone very firm and bold, but you see them they're consumed by it, and they don't have that rahmah side. So is that balance that can, I think, make a man more complete?
Yeah, it's very well said, and it's exactly correct what you say. We take an example of, for example, at a time where some of the Imams alayhim salam would hear something happen to someone, a random person, and they would cry a lot, and they would say, even if someone died after hearing this news, I would not blame them. They would be in deep sorrow. And like you said, someone who has that inclination in this day and age, or in any day and age, who would react like that. Imagine seeing something on the news and you just see them break down. You think this person is going to break down at anything he sees. That's just his nature, his inclination. It tends to take over. They don't employ the emotion, and that's really the key. Unfortunately, as a man, it's not up to you. You can't let your emotions out when you want, or actually, you can't let your emotions out when they want to come out. You can only let them out when you want to let them out. So you have to grab them, take full control of them. They exist. And I always give this example of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam because of his name. Kadhim in Arabic, it means someone who closes a lid, who closes the top of the bottle, lid. So the bottle is full, you're closing the lid because it's full of something. So he's Kadhim al-ghayz, he's closing the anger. The anger is there, and it goes back to how the infallibles actually work. They have all the natural human emotions, but they are men, real men, complete men. And a complete man is a complete brain. That's what makes a man. We know men, like they say typically, a man is a brain and some emotion. A woman is a lot of emotion and some brain. I'm not going to say a little bit of brain because we'll be in trouble. So they have more one than the other, and that's why life is perfect like that. You can't imagine, would you want to marry, and a lot of people would stupidly say yes, would men now would like to marry a woman with a man's mentality? Who wants that? Who wants that? We sometimes would say that, by the way. Why don't you understand? It's so easy, it's logical. Where's your brain? The man would say this, but really he's setting himself up for disaster. If she switches that switch, shall I keep?
We don't need.
There's exceptions as well. Inshallah, I'll have time to go into that before I dig a deep hole for myself.
It's too late.
It's too late.
You're gonna get reported.
Exactly. Alhamdulillah, we have editing. So
Get cancelled.
So he has that ability, and the woman is the opposite of that, and that's why they work perfectly. You need that balance, but then the leadership thing comes into it. Who do you put forward for leadership in anything? Do you put forward someone who's more emotional or more logical? Therefore, Allah Azza wa Jal, obviously He knows who He created, so He said in leadership, not everything, not in a whole, the man is better than a woman. All creations are the same, and this may come as a shock because some people have a misconception that full stop, men are better than women. Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran is not talking about who's better, it's talking about who leads. And I brought the ayat. If I have time, I'll repeat them inshallah later on. But let's not diverse much from the subject that you've said, is what does it take to be a man? Yes, to completely strip yourself from emotions, to never let the emotion make you act. And I'll bring the famous example that I always bring up, which is the one of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and how that one strike that he struck was better than the worship of all of the creations. Obviously these narrations, we can't be so literal with it, and we say okay, all the creations, that includes the Anbiya alayhim salam, includes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some things don't even need explanation. Anyway, so why was it this strike bared so much good in it? Because of the intention, because he stripped himself alayhi salatu wasalam from any internal motive. What are these motives usually that we have? It's really emotions. Let's be honest, when we punish our sons, those who have sons or daughters or whatever, well, why are we doing it? Let's be totally honest, why?
Take out.
Take our anger, we're fed up.
Yeah.
You tried, okay, Fulan, you know, Radhawi, Hamoudi, whatever, you know, Kafi, he comes back, you know, Kafi, he comes back, Kafi, you know, and if he doesn't throw him or hit him or something like that, it's what we call tashaffi. It's like letting out your what's inside you. That's why they're doing it. It's not that, okay, he's done this act, is it a playful act, does it deserve, let me calculate it, let me put it in my processor, which is the man's brain, and see what I need to do here. Sometimes, by the way, you do need to shout. Sometimes you do need to be quote unquote emotional. You know, like when we hear narrations about Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his family, his color changed. Why is that? Is he just pressing a switch to change his color? No, they're much more sophisticated than that. We don't believe that at all. They're not robots, wal'iyadhu billah. They let their emotions out, but they're controlling their emotions. They know that this is a state to show my anger for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, but it's not the anger that done it. There was a very timely process that took part. In our case, we need to do that very slowly. They can implement it like a click. We can't do that.
To use the emotion when it's in their control completely,
Yeah.
and use it when needed.
Yes.
And it's very powerful.
Extremely
in that
powerful.
sense.
It's the most powerful tool you have. I tried to implement it in the army camp that we done. At times we were in extreme sorrow. At times we were extremely happy. And I ordered at the time, quickly switch the states. Now you're laughing. We were all laughing. There was genuinely funny things happening, and we said, now stop. That's a man. That's exactly what a man is. He needs to be able to do that.
So from my understanding, it's like it's the intensity of emotion. If I imagine emotion like a wave, it's that intensity of the emotion, but you are in total control of it. And it's very, in that sense, it's very powerful. Which 99.9% of people, if they ever get in that scenario, the wave is taking control of them.
Exactly.
But you're controlling that wave.
See it like a stallion. You know, you see them running with so much power. You know, and useless. Useless. They're just running away. They're doing crazy things. The minute you tame them, you know, you put the saddle, you put everything else. What a powerful tool that is. That's the man's emotions.
When it comes to about emotions, there is a lot that being said to the youth, such as, oh, don't cry, be a man. But at the end of the day, you know, like they say a lot of things like, oh, the Imams cried, for example. Ali alayhi salam, he cried. So when it comes to the youth, I feel like that whole ideology of telling young boys, okay, this happened, don't cry, be a man, there's pros and cons to it. You know, like, okay, some things are very minor and he'll get over it later on in life. But there are some things that might be disastrous to him. You know, like something unbearable. And he wants to let out that emotion. But when they tell him don't, it turns into anger. And later on in life, he takes it onto his child, onto his wife, onto his... Is there any kind of middle ground for this kind of thing?
That's really important. The way you've laid that out is exactly the issue, you know, and having that balance point. Firstly, if we've done our job correctly, then inshallah the kid or the teenager or whatever stage he's at, he won't go through that stage where he's like about to break, basically. But let's say we have, and he is at that stage, damage control has to happen. You have to see what's the least damaging way I can go forward with this. Eventually, yes, you do have to tell him to man up. Eventually, he has to go to boot camp, quote unquote, you know. He has to be at a stage where somehow he overcomes that. Khalas, he needs to face life. If he can't face life in the house, and this is the big thing that I always tell people, if you can't create a realistic atmosphere in the house, he's going to be doomed when he goes out. He's going to face everything. You go out in the real world, good luck. If you think what you faced here was tough, I know, I've heard stories, I've seen people, I've got feedback from people, and I'll say it plainly, you know, we need to just be honest about these things because people are facing big challenges. I've seen people that have been abused. They've seen their sister be abused in the house. They've been abused themselves by relatives, and I mean sometimes even sexually abused. And they say, "Khalas, I'm complicated. I'm finished. I'm this. I'm that." You know what? The harsh reality is they don't have an excuse for anything. Because unfortunately, especially if you're a man, if you're a woman, we can kind of, you know, meshiha, like we say, but you're emotional, and even her, she has a certain level, but she's limited in what she can do, how much she can employ her brain. it's limited, and that's good for her, and it's good for us, it's good for mankind. If, like I said, if women's brains and logic and emotions were like men, we wouldn't be sitting here. None of us would exist. We would all have probably killed each other by now. So that's a necessity to life. We appreciate that very much, and we need that, and we need to actually make that grow, because again, what are we doing now? The women are becoming the men. That is a problem. They're becoming the men, and that's why now people are scared to get married. We're kind of opening up a can of worms here now.
Yeah, because the issue, one of the issues that we are facing in this regard is the story, again, the story that the West have told people, and when it comes to the human being, they've because their foundation is atheism and liberalism, they've eliminated the human being in its true nature from the equation. There's no longer this aspect of what we understand of a human being in terms of this creation that is made by the all-powerful creator, who's given them certain tools and abilities like the aql, like various things, with the wondrous things inside you that allow you to climb and overcome challenges. That's not the story anymore. And you see that anyone who's grown up in the West has seen it. It's just about cushioning people. This insistence on just protecting people and making them more comfortable, and you see if you go to a high school, I was at a high school recently for a family member, it's all plastered posters. If you are suffering from any depression, please come forward. If you are this,
the whole, like a police station.
Yeah, well, I'm in a bloody insane asylum. I might as well be. But that's what they're missing, because that's their story now. You don't, and you see this filtering into parents now, the way parents are treating their kids. It's just about cushioning them. But that same person, if you didn't cushion them and you push them to be someone stronger, to overcome challenges, to face the difficulties in life, that person would find deep strength within them that is being suffocated.
They are not just cushioning, they're destroying the human, but in a way that, we care about you. They don't actually.
Deception,
very much deception, and the problem is they started preaching it to the kids now.
The thing is, when I grew up, I feel a bit old right now, but
you never thought you'd say those words.
I've never seen like in my school, to be honest, I've literally found out what anxiety is 2 years ago from someone that is younger than me by like 5-6 years. I did not know what it was before that, and it is something that is coming up now. Like if you go to a high school, 80% of the students suffer from anxiety.
Everyone.
To be honest, man up. What's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with you.
It's just pressure, to be honest.
There's nothing wrong with
It's the frame of mind that they put people in. It's this frame. If you want a human being to be weak, you put them in this frame of mind, and you find that they are weak.
It's an escape, basically. It's an escape.
And if you ask anyone over the age of 40, 50, who lived in a more rational time, they would also know this. Life is a difficult challenge. That is life. It's difficulty. You have to get up, face the difficulty. You have to strengthen yourself. You have to figure out what's weak about you, and you face it. And you have to go through suffering. The going through suffering hardens you in many ways that you need to be hardened. Now those opportunities are not there anymore. It just needs to be a nice soft path for everyone. And then at the end of the path, everyone can barely stand on their 2 feet.
They basically pillow them.
Like nowadays, like there was a quote I saw the other day. They said before they used to kill men with guns, now they kill them with Kit Kats.
That's what. So one time you said this to me. There was some situation, some petty thing that was in front of us, and you said to me, look at what we are worried about and complaining about. Before, in the olden days, you would wake up and you would be thinking about which tribe is coming for my family, or who's gonna be killing which tribe. You're thinking about real issues that could end your whole
now
lineage.
You think about anxiety and panic attacks.
Now it's little petty things.
Your biggest issue is paying the electricity bill.
But that's the problem, to be honest. Now there is more attack on masculinity now, I feel like.
Rather they're just putting out labels now, so people can scapegoat these labels and put whatever they have, kind of trauma they might have, or just to be weaker. Because if they were to actually go through it, and come out from it from the other end, just like how it says in the Quran. And indeed Allah does not put on a soul more than it can handle. You know, so anything that a person has in life, whether it's pressure or if it's something sad, they can handle it at the end of the day. Otherwise they wouldn't have been placed, to be honest.
That's a golden rule. That's a golden rule, and that's one to remember. And it goes back to your question that we didn't quite follow through in the answer, which you were saying about what should the parents do, or what should the person in charge do when he's seeing that this person is crying. He does want a shoulder to rest on. He does want to voice his concerns to. Do we just tell him, "Khalas, man up and be a man," or how do we treat that? Because okay, we've established the theory now, but in practice, this is how we're living. We're brought up in this, what they call, I guess, snowflake society, you know, and now this is what the kid has been told all his life, and now he is this weak being. He is overly emotional, and he wants to cry to daddy. He wants to cry to mommy. What do you do? Yes, there are steps now that you have to take, and there is a sacrifice you have to make. You can't just tell him, "Khalas, be like your granddad. Look at him. He has no arms. He lost them in the war, and he doesn't care." He's not going to understand that. You have to speak his language. That's all, by the way, because we didn't do our job from day one. Day one is way before the kid was born. Inshallah, we'll go into that later. But now, khalas, he's grown up. He's in this state. You can save him in a moment. How do you save him? By saving yourself. Why is he like that? Because you failed. Why did you fail? Because you're not complete, as complete as you can. It all goes back to this one poor being. This miskeen is the man.
I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that, for example, got hit as they were kids, they try to avoid hitting their kids.
They go to the other extreme.
But I mean, to be honest, it's a two-edged blade. There's some people that get hit and they do it and worse, because they'll be like, I've got hit, what's the worst that can happen to me? You know? And they start doing it more and more. Like, for example, especially in our society now, they'll go to the extreme side of you know, against Islam, and even, God forbid, they'll start going into nightclubs and all these things, because they'll be like, okay, I got hit, I've been whatever, traumatized or whatever. So what's the worst that can happen to me? They start forgetting about Allah, because they start thinking the biggest fear that they have is their parents. But that's the thing though. If you was to hit them, you kind of pushing them towards that direction. But if you don't hit them, they might still go towards that direction. So you don't know what to do these days, to be honest.
I would say it comes down to what Sheikh Hassan said. The parent in a lot of cases is ignoring the thing that they most want to ignore. There's something deeply wrong with them. They themselves are not principled enough, not in control of their emotions enough. They didn't have enough wisdom, understanding, knowledge, whatever the case may be, that they found themselves in a scenario where there's a child or a teenager, whatever it may be, who is they have there's no dynamic between them, where, you know, the child was able to respect them and the child themselves were able to be principled. It's like that with children. When you see your son or your daughter, especially in the younger years, where they're not in the stage of their life where they've really formed who they are. You're just basically looking at the results of the reflection of who you are. So it really comes back down to the parent. So they shouldn't be discussing with themselves, oh, should I hit him or should I not hit him? That's not really the core. What is wrong with me that has allowed this child to be in this situation where now I have to I'm considering I have to smack him across his face.
But sometimes, like, you see the sons of great people, that all the other kids are perfect, like, you know, absolutely, they're scholars, they are you know, they're engineers, there's something very good in society, they benefit in society. And then you have that one child who basically is just like, how can I say, the bad apple in the tree. Now the reason this kid was a bad apple in the tree is not because of his parents, it's because of his society and the way that he was raised, you know.
Well, how old is he, for example?
Let's say, for example, he's right now, I don't know, like 30, for example.
Yeah, well, at that stage he's made his, but you mean that someone, it's their child and he's reached 30.
It's their child and they reached 30.
Well, yeah, so like at a certain point it's the person themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
After there's the parenthood phase, but I don't know what that age would be, depending on the culture and society, 16, 17, 18. There's a point where now it's that person who decides who they're going to be.
But couldn't that been avoided though from the start? That's my point I'm trying to make.
Firstly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is all knowledgeable, he is all knowing. So in the case of each person, which family that person is finds himself in, things that you can't control.
Yeah.
What zaman, what era are you born in? What family do you have? Who are your parents that are given to?
What culture?
Each single person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where to place them, where they need to be placed. And I've heard scholars say that Allah places each person in the exact specific place that gives them the most chance to succeed. Meaning, if you took that person, I don't care what that situation is. You may show me this family is twisted and deep and dark. It doesn't matter. If you took that person and put that person, and it's important to say that person because each person is different. If you took that person and put him in any other family, you would be disadvantaging his chances of success. This is one thing I've heard from scholars. It's from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives you the best that you need. And we don't know who you are in your previous lives, what decisions you've made. What you need in this world, he's putting you in that specific place. So then that's where a lot of maybe atheists or people that are not religious, who don't understand this concept of this trial of life, they have this issue. Oh, but some people are born in a family of drugs. And another one's born in a nice, comfy family, and his parents and mother have everything together, and they've given him good education. What's going on? It doesn't work like that. It's not black and white in that sense. If you swap the two, you're not doing anyone any favors in that regard. So if you have a child in a bad situation with parents that are messing them up, obviously I'm sure there's exceptions and there's extreme cases, extreme cases, which is not the norm. Most of the time we're not talking about that. We're talking about the regular bad situation, and even the somewhat extreme bad. But there's a whole nother level maybe. But if you have someone in a bad situation, of course the parenting that is going to be provided to them, if any at all, is going to do damage to them. Psychologically it's going to do damage. It's going to cause them to think in the wrong way. It's going to cause them maybe to do certain things. But that's what we understand in terms of what is the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, this is part of that fake story we said earlier, that they're telling, they're eliminating all of this. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you everything you need within yourself to climb out of whatever situation you're in. And if you were to know all the variables, you will find that you are the person to climb out this situation the best. And does that mean you will climb out? Because people see someone in a situation, drug family, whatever, and then they find they don't climb out. They messed up, and they say, "Oh, look, no. Why do we ignore now the other aspect of a human being, which is they can terribly fail. You can give them everything they need, and they can choose to do wrong, and they can see signs, and they can be given what they need, and they can be guided in whatever way they need to be, and they choose to go the wrong way. Why can't that be the case? And that is the case, generally speaking. That is the case. So it's I think the excuse is that in the younger years, which is fair enough up to a certain point, but once that comes into the person that being a fully functioning conscious person, is in their hands.
But I mean, I feel like society has a bigger role sometimes in raising a man or a child. Look at the Russian society, for example. The Russians, a baby when they're first born, they told them, put them in deep ice, in cold ice, and even like they show them how to be a man, as they might say, by teaching them life skills, hunting, teaching them things that he will survive on. And then if you compare that with the Western world, where they teach them from young, support the LGBT, support mental health and whatnot, you will see the difference. So I feel like society play a big role as well.
It definitely does, but ultimately, as believers and as men, that I keep saying, because this is a big word for me, at least it means a lot, we can only blame, or should only blame ourselves, because we have everything in our grasp. From the moment Allah Azza wa Jal created us and gave us the free will, everything is down to us, and that's why there is Judgment Day, because full accountability will be taken on that day. And we don't really want to leave it till that day to feel that weight, but that weight is on our shoulders, is that every single failure we have, He Azza wa Jal is not going to ask, oh, who got you to do this, who influenced you. He's going to say, here's your actions, what do you have to say about them? And that's it. And you know, in the Quran, and as we know, even in our fitrah, in our natural human inclination, we feel that we're responsible for our actions. That chip inside us is telling us many things. It's telling us we've been.
That's maybe how you feel. I'll be honest with you. 80% of even Muslim people, they don't have that fear of Allah.
The moral compass.
They don't have fear of Allah.
Yeah.
They fear this life more than the afterlife.
Yes, but they know the consequence though. They don't have fear of it because they choose to ignore it. But they basically know that when they're carrying an action out that is forbidden, they know they're doing something wrong.
The last 5 minutes.
So they're not totally satisfied with what they're doing. For example, someone who's stealing. Is someone who's stealing like someone who's drinking water or someone who's buying something? It can never be that way. Even if he's stolen 1,000,000 times, he will always feel that this is a wrong act. So that moral compass is there. That's just a chip that's been installed. Again,
something wrong, you feel something wrong inside. This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and atheists have a struggle actually in explaining this. Well, what is this? Who put this there? What does this mean? Because that in itself is a big evidence that Allah Azza wa Jal exists. Because who put that compass in us to feel wrong? It's not because we're going against the law, because sometimes there is no law for doing something wrong, but you feel it's wrong. You know, even
depending on the situation. For example, right now for the youth, zina is something normal. Every guy has a girlfriend, every girl has a boyfriend. And you have situation here and in Iraq where people that are married and they still doing zina, which is something very normal, which is crazy to us, but for them it's normal. It's something that is the usual life.
Okay, and let's say this has become an issue, you know, in Iraq or in any other country. If that's become an issue, that does not take away the fact that they know they're doing something wrong. That's a given. It's certain that each person who does
that's with the married people, but for example, for the youth right now, a lot of youths have girlfriends and.
But eventually, what do they say? I need to get my life on track. I need to stop messing around and doing this foolishness and actually do something worthwhile and get met. Why? Because they knew all that they were doing was wrong. I'm not saying that they have the same feeling of a pious man who would never do such a thing. Of course, no, it's not to be compared. But that chip is always there. It's always annoying them. And that's where depression comes in. Depression is actually the call of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what it is. And that's why the West have an issue in understanding depression. Because it's Allah's way of bringing you back. Just like sickness, we're told that sickness is Allah Azza wa Jal's trap. And He traps whichever believer He wishes to do so. Sometimes you're there in your own world and you're moving and you've got plans and suddenly you get sick. And now it's just you and Allah Azza wa Jal and you're in your bed. And this is the perfect time to reflect. You've kind of been led astray. You're now in a state where you're not seeing correctly. You think you're doing so much, so Allah Azza wa Jal takes you back, puts you back to your room, to your house, and He says, now reflect. Now reflect on how weak you are. Look at what's coming out of your body. Look at how much you're in need of others. Don't forget me. Everything that you're doing is because of my sustenance. And He traps the mu'min in that. And depression is the same thing we have in our narrations. That He traps believers in depression so that they remember Him. Because depression for a believer is a time of deep reflection. It is something that exists, but it's not like you were saying, it's not the way they've extravagated it and made it, you know. They've made it a fashion statement. I'm depressed, antidepressants, I take this and that, and what do you take, you know? It's gonna be on TikTok soon, you know, everyone putting their antidepressants and the medication they're on. It's becoming like, it's just silly. But it does exist in that way, as a reminder that I'm not fulfilling what I'm here to fulfill. What am I here to fulfill? Go ask anyone. What's your mission in life? House, money. I'm talking Muslims and non-Muslims alike. To settle down and teach and then what? Why are you here? Who are you? What do you do here? What do you do in this life? They don't know. Because you don't know, it's gonna come and it's gonna bite you so hard, and that's gonna be depression. And you're gonna be in that dark hole, and until you acknowledge that you have a much greater purpose, it can always come back to bite you. You can feel it. You can fill it with an ambition. I want to be the #1 footballer. I want to be the best boxer in the world. I want to be this and that. As soon as you get to that stage, if you do ever get to that stage, that dark hole will come chasing you very fast, because you'll feel that that's not what I'm here to do. That chip will come back and hurt you. There's no men in our society, unfortunately. Look, now you have figures now, random figures popping up, showing some fake traits of masculinity.
Masculinity.
Yeah, that word.
Yeah.
They're showing fake traits of that, and they're gaining following through that. Why? Because there's a big thirst for this. People feel that they're not men anymore. They know that they're not men anymore, and they're filling it by fakeness, by pretending to be a man.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. How am I a man? I have nice cars. What's that got to do with being a man? How am I a man? I have 10 women around me. What's that got to do?
The thing is, that's what society sees it now.
Yeah.
For example, even women. Oh, my husband is not a real man because he doesn't drive a Mercedes Benz.
Yeah.
Oh, my husband is not a real man because, I don't know, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. They don't see the real man, what a real man's supposed to be.
Do you know why? I'm gonna be harsh here, because they don't have real men. They don't have real men.
It's a loop.
If you have a real man and he's a tramp, he will impress that woman.
I mean,
Really, if he's a real man, that he will know exactly what to say to that woman, and he will fill her eyes. This man is the only man that exists in the world. I'm not saying be manipulating to your woman or do these tricks that some men can do. Be a real man, and there is nowhere else she can look. She cannot. She will not. It's not within her. Women, by the way, are very easy to satisfy if you know how they work. If you treat her like you treat yourself, or like you want to be treated, logically, if I show her that I love her, she's gonna respect me, because that's what I want from her. I want her to show me. No, that's not how it works, I'm afraid. You can show her day and night. You can put your neck on the line. You can nearly die from saving her life. Guess what value that holds to her?
Zero.
What do you think? Zero.
-1.
Minus something, That's how she works. So how am I successful with the woman? It's another realm. Come to Cuckoo Land. The men now have to come to that land that they've never been before. How do these creatures work? Yes, they're different from you. They're a different creation. They're not men. They're completely different. They've come from another planet. Forget, we've come from the same womb. We all come from our mothers, and but they're different. Please establish this, that a woman is a different creation to a man. If you're happy with this fact, if you acknowledge that as a fact, then you can go forward. Now, how do you treat this woman? Okay, understand how her chemical setup, how she works. One of the main things and the blatant rules that some of the hukama, some of the knowledgeable people of the old times would tell you, that do 1,000 things but say one thing, with a woman, and that's a golden rule. It's all about what you say. Now, does that work one way? We have to know how they work, and we have to know that it's what. Unfortunately, that's how it works. But to me, if you ask me, I would say fortunately. That's very fortunate, because that makes my life very easy. And I can say this, you can publicize this. I'm talking from a practical sense. Obviously, all of you know that I am married, so technically this is suicide what I'm saying. But I'm showing you that it works. Do whatever you want. Say the right things. And it doesn't matter. I'm saying it now. Oh, khalas, you've shown your cards. Your trick is over now. They're not going to believe a word you say. That's not how it works. I can say whatever I like in these instances, in these sittings, and publicly, because I say the right things to the person's face, and that's all that matters. Fortunately, it makes my life very easy. Because then I don't. No effort has to be exerted. If I was to be evil, I could misuse that. I could actually treat them, wal-'iyadhu billah, very badly, but say the right things, which is what some men do, and have them chasing after you all the time. You don't want to have headache at home. You can't be having argue. Who argues with their wife? Really? By the way, nearly everyone argues with. Why are you arguing with your wife? Your wife is not someone you argue with. When was the last time you saw someone argue with their son? You don't have an argument with your son. You tell your son certain things. You tell your wife certain things. You tell them how things are. You have a discussion. Yes, you don't have an argument. You don't. It's a failure. Don't argue with your wife. It just doesn't work. People will, I have a headache. Why do you have a headache? I've been arguing with my, what's wrong with you? This is exactly how it is. And yes, it does work both ways. Now the woman should as well know. Of course, we don't care how much they apply that knowledge, because you have the power. You know, if they have shortcomings, you can close those shortcomings. If you have shortcomings, it's all over. You're the man. Everything is in your control. You're the leader.
You're the driver.
When the leader messes up, when the driver, when the pilot messes up, it's all over. You can't, unfortunately. That's why I say, as a man, it's a very harsh world, my friend. Welcome to this world. It's a world of danger. It's a world of battle. It's a world of war, like the Quran says.
Sorry, I don't cut you.
Yeah.
I'm just coming back from the other side, because some of the things you say, you're putting it forward in a way that maybe if women hear it, they'll take it in the wrong way. I think not so much. I think women actually more like what you said, because women say this themselves a lot of the time in terms of what they want from a man. They want that stability. And what you're describing, when I imagine it, I can picture a woman in a situation where a man is doing what you've described, and maybe they don't necessarily think it consciously, but they will get this vibe over a consistent period of time that this is a man who is in control of himself, and that is the ultimate stability that they can source their own stability from. And I think no woman will ever think that's a bad thing.
Definitely,
definitely.
Because that's what they're looking for. They're longing for that from the moment that they start growing up and thinking about leaving their parents' realm and their parents' safety. They want someone to provide that and more. And the minute you show weakness, it's all over. Let me just talk quickly, very briefly, about their obligation. If they want to live up to it, if they don't, it's fine. We'll manage things, no problem. From their aspect, they should know that a man is mostly brain and not that much emotion. So you can't just say to him, oh, I care about you and I sacrifice myself to you and whatever. And it doesn't mean much. They should know that a man wants actions. He doesn't want nice words. Nice words here and there is a bonus, but he wants actions. So if they want to control their husband, to get his mawaddah, to get his love, his respect, his whatever, affection. Affection especially. If they want all of that, what they have to do is understand how he works. Now he's a different creature from another planet, and he wants actions. He's not so interested in words. So if you flip the tables, then that would be their obligation. But that's not so important, because you have full control. And I like giving the example of Aisha. Aisha, what did she do in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? She couldn't do much. As we know, she was probably the worst of creations from the females. What did she had massive wars with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was a terrorist. If she wasn't a terrorist, then Allah Azza wa Jal wouldn't come down. Imagine in the book that will be revealed till the day of judgment, and say, I will be your enemy. Jibreel, al-mu'mineen, this and that, and list basically the whole army of good doers, including Allah Azza wa Jal, against you, Aisha and Hafsa. If they weren't war, then why did he declare war in that ayah? I've never seen an ayah that declares war that badly. And this is because they said, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, your breath doesn't smell so good. What kind of nonsense is this? But that's a side thing. What was she able to do in his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Not much. She was very controlled, because he was the only person, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that knew how to manage someone with that much energy to do bad. That much energy that would kill thousands and thousands of Muslims years after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the killing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how much evil she had and ability she had. Where was that ability? Where was that evil? It was very nicely controlled, because the husband had a tight grasp. So that's the importance of a husband having that control. But just quickly touching upon the emotion thing. Yes, you need to control if you're emotional in front of your peers, your friends, your work colleagues, whatever, forget being successful at home. If you have these outbreaks suddenly, you're going to have them much more. Home life is a war if you don't know how to live it. It's an absolute leisure. It's the best leisure center you can go to if you know what to do when you go there. If you don't, welcome to war part 2. So you do jihad here, you do jihad elsewhere. You go there, you do jihad al-akbar. You do the biggest jihad. But that's all wrong. That should not happen. Why does it happen? Because in my day-to-day life, when I've had the opportunities have arisen for me to be a real man and to take full control, someone came and he slapped me, he spat on me, he done whatever, I don't react unless I have the ability to slow time down, to stop time, you know, like in movies, and to really think. This is a prolonged process, by the way. I need to do this day in and day out to have this ability. Okay, this action has happened. What do I do now? If I just react, I have zero thawab. Even if I do the right thing, I have zero thawab. By the way, I have zero reward. If I just act out of whatever happens, I get the feeling to slap him back, do something back. There's no reward in that. What I need to do is put that back in the processor. Who is he? Why did he do this? And I'm not saying when that happens, sit there and be like, sorry brother, 1 second, let me just think about what to do. But if you employ that day to day, you think, what was this action? What do I need to do? How do I need to react? Then if you need to be angry, be angry. But you are controlling the anger. You have that stallion now, you fully dressed it up, and now you can go to the direction that you want to go to. You don't let the situation take charge of you. You take charge of the situation. Massive difference. And if you can do that at home, that's exactly how you will be successful. And in addition to that, none of those emotions can show. Imagine we gave the example of a man sometime, or a teenager or whatever, crying to his dad, to his uncle or whatever. Can you ever do that in front of your wife?
No, never.
You know, he's had a very hard day. He's had a day of jihad. He's had, he needs to. Who is he gonna air out these things to? He's married now. Ahsant. But let's say now, for conversation's sake, he's married and he's no longer with his dad. His mom and dad has passed away. He doesn't have many friends. He can't trust anyone. Surely the best person to tell your troubles to is your wife. That's why you're married, isn't it? She's very understanding, she's loving, she's nurturing. Who better to go tell your problems to your wife? Isn't that true?
No.
Why?
No, but they teach you that in Western life.
Don't negotiate with terrorists.
Because if you
Don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah, just like why? But let's hear the exact.
Would you cry in front of your kid? No.
Ahsan, that's I like where you're going. I like where you're going with that. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a good example.
I don't want to compare obviously like someone's wife to a kid. But you're responsible for your wife.
Yes.
You're taking care of her.
Yes.
You're paying the bills. You're feeding her, looking after the house and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's practically like the same as your kid because you are looking after her.
Responsible for it.
If you cry in front of your kid, what's gonna happen to the kid?
Yeah.
He's gonna kind of lose hope. Like, he's the. When they look at you as like the role model. Strength. They look up to you. The iron that holds everything together.
Yeah.
If you break in front of them, they're also gonna break.
Yeah.
So if you cry in front of your wife, she'll see you less of a man, and that's the truth of it. But in Western society, they've told you that you can't cry in front of your wife, share your feelings. But once you do, you're gonna see it like slowly have an effect on you.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
That's exactly, for me personally, that is exactly the main reason why you shouldn't.
Never had your dad cry in front of you?
Never.
Because like I was saying, the minute they leave the hands of their father, their mother, their household, they're looking for the next best thing. And they're actually looking for the better thing. I don't want to say it like that, but let's say it for the sake of advancing the conversation, actually understanding it. After Allah Azza wa Jal, the woman relies on her husband. That's how it is. You can't show weakness. I hear what you're saying about ammunition, and that can come back to haunt you, but the main reason is exactly what the brother pointed out, is that they can't see weakness. They don't need to see weakness. You don't need to unsettle them by showing them weakness, because then they will lose confidence.
But with this like society, with social media and everything, it becomes more difficult. It's like what Yasser said about women or wives having boyfriends and things like that. Obviously social media makes that easier for them, but also if you are crying to your wife and you're showing her how weak you are, and she's going on social media and she's hearing all these different stories about real men who don't do this in front of their wife and things like that. With the society and everything, and obviously weak religion, they're gonna go ahead and start looking elsewhere. It's kind of their nature in a way, where it's like they look at it as this person can't. I don't feel safe with him. It's about it's a safety net. So in a marriage, the woman looks as, okay, I'm with this man, I'm safe with him. Once that man breaks, it's like he's injured at war. Like he can't protect me anymore and my kids. so I have to go somewhere else. And with this society, it's too easy to do that. So that's why we have more like spouses cheating and things like this.
That's exactly right. That is, I think there's two main points. One of them people don't like to bring up. Again, I'm going to bring it up. That's the exact idea of this program, is that we can bring these things up. And it may seem very mechanical, I guess, you know, or it may seem very simple, but simple things sometimes are the core of the issue. So issue number one is that what you've said exactly, is the fact that they need someone to fully trust and rely on, and they can't see weakness. Issue number two, you know, which people ignore in conversations even like this, but especially in religious circles, and I'll say it plainly without any, you know, muqaddimat, or like they say, it's the sex life. Really, and people don't speak about this, but this is really at the pinnacle after what you've mentioned, feeling safe and everything. The second reason why women, wal-iyadhu billah, these are things that are very difficult to speak about, you know, cheating and things like that. But you have to be honest, because if you don't speak about them, the problems will carry on to arise. So yes, we've spoken a bit about how to make your woman feel safe and all the rest of it. The second thing is, if you don't feed your woman, surely she's gonna leave you. Now, we know that feeding, you know, eating food, for example, is a natural human desire that you need to fulfill. Sex life is exactly the same, and until you know how to do that, and the ways to do that through religion, again, Imam Ali alayhi salam did not leave anything untouched. Everything he spoke about. But why we don't speak about it, I don't understand.
It's because people are shy. That's
why. Like that's why I don't. Do we have more humility than the Ma'sumin alayhim salam? Then Allah Azza wa Jal, He spoke about this so that we know. Imagine if He just did not say anything. Everyone would be doing something random with their wives. What kind of nonsense is that? And the thing is that time that a man is with their wife is a very sacred time. And you know what's happening? It's turning into an animalistic act. That act within itself is an act that we know animals do. By the way, even eating is the same thing. You can't just get carried away, oh, this is so nice, you become like an animal. And Imam Ali alayhi salam explains this. The Quran actually talks about this as well. How you can be just like an animal, just eating, you know, because that's one desire that they have. So you're just fulfilling your desire. With the other thing I spoke about is exactly the same thing. It's a thing we share even with animals. So you can very easily, la samahallah, you can go towards that. And you just start carrying out these acts. And what can I do? How do I mix it up? Let me try this, let me try that. And you don't have any guidance to it. And sometimes it's a failure from the first night. And there's a big build up to that. And I want to speak about that separately in another time if we can. The whole marriage thing and the zaffa and the qa'a and the music and the this and that. And what disturbance that has. How it sets things very badly for the future. And very often, yes, on the first night it all collapses. Because firstly you've built something up on mostly haram. You've made so many mistakes and you've made this bubble that doesn't exist, and it's burst the moment that you have a clue what you're doing. And that's the majority of people, unfortunately. If you're a religious person, believe it or not, you'll know exactly what to do. Is that what people think in this day and age?
You're a religious person who knows.
You know exactly.
About how many religious people know?
Yeah, not a lot. But that's our shortcoming, because we don't speak about it. Where, mashallah, we have so much humility, we can't speak about astaghfirullah, you know, as if this stuff doesn't happen. What is this? You need to speak about it.
I don't do party in my marriage.
Yeah, good. No, there's a lot of barakah in this. Inshallah, we will speak about this. But
why is it not spoken about though? That's the thing.
It's fake humility. Sometimes we imagine like fake respect. It stops us from saying things critically. Sometimes someone asks you, what's your opinion of this? Something, an act that he does. And you tell him, yeah, inshallah, and you do this mujam, you work around, go around in circles basically, beats around the bush like they say. Not to ignore the conversation, but don't have a street talk. Don't say, oh, this is what to do with your wife, some disgusting way of putting it. That eliminates the whole subject. The whole subject is to know how to have that beautiful relationship with your wife. Not to do, you can't do trial and error. The time that you get married is not a time for trial and error. It's a time for certainty. At that day when you've built up that hype, like they say, at least if you've done all of that, you need to know exactly what to do so you don't ruin your relationship.